Welcome to the deep dive. So you're looking to really get the essence of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich kind of quickly without, getting bogged down.
That's the plan.
Great. Well, that's exactly what we're aiming for today. We've got the excerpts you sent over, and our mission is basically to pull out the most impactful stuff for you.
It's amazing, isn't it, how a book written, nearly a century ago, still feels relevant.
Totally. Its staying power is pretty remarkable, speaks volumes about the core ideas, I think.
Definitely.
And right off the bat, the really intriguing thing is this secret Hill keeps mentioning, this supposedly tested formula for success and getting wealthy.
Yeah, and he dropped some big names, Woolworth. Even Woodrow Wilson apparently endorsed it.
Exactly. Makes you lean in, doesn't it? Like, what is this secret? We're definitely going to try and unpack that.
And it's important to say, Hill insists it's more than just cash.
Right. He talks about a richer life overall.
Yeah, like peace of mind, understanding things better, even spiritual balance. And that story about his son, Blair.
Oh, yeah, the hearing difficulties. From page 52, you highlighted that.
It really drives home the power Hill puts on, intense desire, focused desire.
It does. That story really jumped out at me, too. The, sheer intensity of Hill's desire for his son and how that seemed to, spark something in Blair himself.
Catalyst, yeah. It's a powerful way to introduce the book's foundation.
So let's dig into that first big theme, the power of desire. Hill doesn't waste any time bringing out the big guns, does he? The endorsements.
No, he lays them out thick and fast. F.W. Woolworth, for example.
The five and dime guy.
The very same. Credited his whole retail empire, even the iconic Woolworth building, to applying these law of success ideas.
Wow. That's not small potatoes, a massive physical legacy tied to this philosophy.
Exactly. And then there's Robert Dollar, the shipping guy.
What did he say?
He apparently wished he'd known this stuff 50 years earlier. Said he could have achieved everything in half the time.
50 years. That really frames these principles as accelerators, doesn't it? Makes you wonder.
It does. It suggests they're not just nice ideas, but actual tools, levers you can pull.
Levers, yeah, I like that. And Samuel Gompers, the labor leader.
He saw mastering this as an insurance policy against failure.
Insurance against failure. That broadens it out, doesn't it? Beyond just making money.
Totally. Suggests it helps with resilience, navigating, tough times in any field.
And Wilson being impressed by the mastermind concept hints at collaboration, right? We'll get more into that later, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. And John Wanamaker, the department store pioneer, he apparently backed up the 17 fundamentals after 30 years of using them. That's some serious long-term validation.
30 years.
Wow.
It speaks to the practicality, the staying power, if you stick with it.
And then there's the big one, Andrew Carnegie's challenge to Hill himself.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that again.
Carnegie basically told Hill, spend 20 years of your life sharing this secret with the world.
20 years?
Yep. He believed it could, totally revolutionize education, cut schooling time in half.
That's incredibly ambitious. Shows how deeply Carnegie must have believed in this stuff. Its power to transform.
Absolutely. A profound conviction.
And then we get the Charles Schwab story. The U.S. Steel formation. Hill uses this as a prime example of the secret at work, right? Specifically around faith.
Yes, and what's really striking there is just the scale of it.
Yeah.
A $600 million opportunity.
Which was an astronomical sum back then.
Astronomical. And Hill says it stemmed from Schwab's vision and, crucially, the unwavering faith he projected when he pitched it to J.P. Morgan.
It just highlights the massive potential impact Hill sees in these principles.
It almost sounds too good to be true, doesn't it?
It really does. And then you've got guys like Alexander Graham Bell, Clarence Darrow, basically saying you rarely see huge fortunes built without this Carnegie secret.
It almost paints it as a fundamental requirement for hitting that top tier of success.
Yeah, you can't get there without it, which really ups the ante for understanding these principles.
It suggests they're more than just, helpful hints. They're fundamental.
Okay, so let's look at that Edwin C. Barnes anecdote, the guy who just had to become Edison's partner.
Yes. It's such a vivid picture of the kind of intense focus Hill talks about.
Showing up looking like, Hill says, an ordinary tramp.
Well,
but his desire, that burning desire, was so strong it convinced Edison.
Even though Edison initially gave him pretty menial work.
Right, sweeping floors or something. But what's the key takeaway there, do you think?
Well, it took 5 years, right? But the fascinating part is Barnes's mindset.
How so?
Even doing basic jobs mentally, he already saw himself as Edison's partner from day one.
Wow.
that unwavering internal focus, that absolute belief in where he was headed, that seems to be the crucial thing that eventually made it happen.
It's like that image Hill uses, the warrior burning his ships behind him.
Exactly.
By the way, before we go further, a quick note from me, the human behind this voice. Yes, this content is powered by AI, but it's deeply curated, rewritten, and crafted by someone who cares about how you learn, not just what you learn. Gradia isn't here to just summarize books. We're here to bring you the essence of life-changing ideas in a way that actually stays with you, in your mind, in your choices, in your vision. So if you're still with me, know this. Every word, every pause, every piece we create is designed to shift something in you, even if just a little. Let's keep going.
No retreat, no plan B.
Forces a whole different level of commitment, doesn't it? All energy focused forward.
That's the intensity. And then Hill talks about practical dreamers, people who harness intangible forces.
Yeah, like thoughts, desires.
And use them to create tangible things. Skyscrapers, airplanes, things that didn't exist before someone intensely imagined them.
Like Henry Ford dreaming up a car everyone could afford, or Edison with the light bulb, failing thousands of times but sticking with that vision.
These weren't just idle daydreams. They were desires, strong desires, backed by relentless action.
And Hill says the absolute first step, the crucial one, is defining your desire, getting crystal clear.
Right, not just a fuzzy wish like, I want more money. It needs to be specific, tangible, something you feel intensely.
Like his own fierce desire for his son, Blair, to, overcome the hearing issues. That focused intention seems key.
And it ties into overcoming limitations we put on ourselves.
Yeah, he reflects on that quote, our only limitations are those we set up in our own minds, especially after Blair was born. It's quite profound when you think about it.
Because you wonder how often we hold ourselves back without even realizing it, doesn't it?
Definitely. Which brings us to the role of faith.
Yes. Faith is critical in making the desire real.
The way Hill describes selling his son on the idea that his hearing issue was actually an advantage.
That's a fascinating twist, isn't it?
Yeah. Leading to special treatment, this belief he'd be a great newspaper seller because of it. It's like reframing reality through belief.
It really shows the power of perspective. How belief, even if you have to consciously build it, can shape outcomes. And Hill actually breaks down transmuting desire into reality into 3 steps.
Okay, what are they?
First, mix that intense desire with unwavering faith. Second, communicate the desire relentlessly, persistently. And third, the recipient, in this case his son, has to actually believe it.
Which ties this whole desire concept directly to financial success.
How so?
Well, the book suggests using techniques like autosuggestion to basically program your subconscious mind.
Right, to convince yourself deep down that you will receive what you desire.
And that deep conviction then generates the faith, and the faith fuels the creation of actual practical plans to get it. It's like setting your internal compass for success.
Exactly. Aligning everything, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, with your goal creates a powerful, unstoppable force.
Okay, let's pivot then. Let's talk about specialized knowledge. Hill makes a really clear distinction here, doesn't he?
He does, between just general knowledge, the kind you might pick up broadly, maybe at university, and specialized knowledge.
And he argues the specialized kind is the direct path to wealth.
Pretty much. His point is, general knowledge is great, but it only becomes powerful when you focus it, when you organize it and apply it to a specific goal.
That famous quote, right? Knowledge is only potential power.
Exactly. Until you put it to work.
So the missing link in a lot of education for Hill is that it doesn't teach you how to use what you learn.
Right. It's not just about memorizing facts. It's about application, problem solving in the real world.
He even says employers often look beyond just grades. They want character, applied intelligence, people skills.
Yeah, the ability to actually use knowledge effectively and, work well with others, that often trumps a perfect transcript.
He's a fan of things like apprenticeships or choosing your major early in college, getting focused.
Building depth in one area makes your knowledge much more valuable, more practical. And he even finds value in things like correspondence courses, even if they're tough or costly.
Why is that?
It's the discipline, he says, the self-discipline you gain from that kind of structured, focused study.
So the act of committing, investing time and money builds important traits.
Yeah, like making decisions, acting promptly, finishing what you start. Those are transferable skills, valuable everywhere.
That makes sense. The discipline itself is a form of specialized knowledge in a way.
You can say that, and the story of Stuart Austin Weir really drives this home.
The guy who switched careers later in life.
Yeah, engineer hit hard by the Depression, decides to become a lawyer. He's over 40, married.
And he goes back to school.
Goes back and apparently knocks out a 4-year law degree in just 2 years.
Oh.
By being laser-focused, selecting only highly specialized courses relevant to what he wanted to do. It totally challenges the idea that you're locked into one path.
She's the power of adaptability, acquiring new specialized knowledge when the situation demands it.
Exactly, lifelong learning. And that leads into his idea of a prepared plan to market personal service.
Okay, what's the core concept there if someone wants to get ahead?
It's basically creating a really compelling, organized presentation of yourself, your skills, your experience, what you want to achieve, and crucially, how you can benefit a specific employer or role.
Like building a business case for yourself.
Precisely. And Hill claims it can make a huge difference. He tells a story about a young man whose plan supposedly shaved 10 years off his career progression.
10 years, just by being strategic about presenting himself.
Compared to just, the traditional start at the bottom and hope for the best approach.
Which Hill is quite critical of, isn't he? That work your way up mentality.
He is. He argues too many people just get stuck at the bottom that way. The view from there doesn't always inspire ambition, he thinks.
So what's the alternative?
Be proactive. Cultivate a mindset of always looking for opportunities, observing how things work at higher levels, figuring out how you can contribute more. Don't just wait to be promoted.
Like that Dan Halpin story.
Yeah. Managed a championship football team, then jumps into selling hearing aids on commission.
Seems like a random jump.
Maybe, but he leverages his management skills, shows initiative, and boom, 6 months later, he's vice president and general manager.
6 months. Wow. That's applying transferable skills and, well, initiative.
Exactly. And Hill points out the sheer amount of money flowing through wages and salaries. It's a massive market for effectively marketing your own services.
He even suggests creating these personal service sales plans is a valuable skill in itself.
Yeah, he implies consultants doing this could earn a cut of the increased salaries they help people get. It's about knowing your value and communicating it effectively.
Okay, shifting gears to imagination. Hill says, our current era, with all its rapid change, is actually the best time for developing imagination. Why?
Well, he sees constant change as a constant source of new problems to solve, new opportunities to seize. It demands creative thinking.
And he points to all the huge leaps in the last 50 years before he wrote the book. Flight, radio.
Space exploration now.
Yeah.
All driven by human imagination tackling new frontiers.
And he has that interesting idea about the brain being like a broadcasting and receiving station for thoughts.
Yeah, thought vibrations. It hints at something deeper, a kind of interconnectedness through thought energy.
What do you make of that, practically speaking, for achieving goals?
It suggests our thoughts aren't just passive. They have energy, they can potentially influence things, and he breaks down imagination into 2 types.
Right, synthetic and creative.
Synthetic's like rearranging existing ideas, combining old concepts in new ways, like remixing. Most inventors use this a lot.
Okay, remixing existing stuff and creative imagination.
That's the source of totally new ideas. Hunches, inspiration. It apparently works best when the mind is highly stimulated, vibrating at a higher frequency, he says.
So one is building with existing blocks, the other is getting brand new blocks, seemingly out of nowhere.
That's a good way to put it. And Hill stresses you have to actively use your imagination to build plans, to visualize turning your desire into money or whatever your goal is.
It's not passive dreaming, it's active creation.
And he says simply writing down your desire, writing down your plan. That's the crucial first concrete step. Makes it real.
Moves it from just a thought into the physical world.
Exactly. Gives it form. And he insists the secret isn't really hidden. Nature displays these principles everywhere, apparently. We just need to learn to see and use them.
The Coca-Cola story is a great example he uses.
Yeah, a simple idea, born from imagination, combined with a plan, becomes this global giant.
And the original guy who bought the formula for, what, $500?
From the doctor, yeah. Had no idea the fortune it would become. It really underscores the power of the idea, the imaginative spark.
Execution matters, of course, but the idea is the seed.
And he points to movies, radio. Whole industries built on new ideas, even how advertising had to adapt imaginatively when radio came along, shifting from visual to sound.
Requires constant creative adaptation.
Those who can think imaginatively and adapt are the ones who thrive in changing times.
Okay, let's talk organized planning. This feels really central. And Hill is adamant about needing a mastermind group. He calls it absolutely essential.
He really doesn't leave room for doubt on that one, does he?
No. Why is this collaboration so non-negotiable in his view?
His basic argument is, nobody knows everything. No single person has all the experience, education, ability, and native knowledge needed to guarantee huge success alone.
So the mastermind group provides that missing collective intelligence.
Exactly. It's that coordination of knowledge and effort in the spirit of harmony, working towards a clear goal. It creates something bigger than the sum of its parts.
And he says, before you even try to form one, you need to figure out what you bring to the table.
Right. What value, what benefits can you offer the others in return for their help? It has to be mutual.
A two-way street. Makes sense.
Creates synergy. Everyone contributes, everyone gains. And he recommends meeting regularly, like twice a week minimum.
To keep refining the plan together.
Yes. And maintaining perfect harmony is crucial. He stresses that.
Harmony, what does that mean practically? No arguments.
Not necessarily no arguments, but a fundamental alignment. Mutual respect, open communication, shared commitment, no undermining, no hidden agendas. Discord kills the synergy.
Because no individual is smart enough alone, plans need that collective input, that joint creation and approval.
That's his view. Leverage the group's wisdom. And if the first plan fails...
Don't quit. Make a new one. Persistence in planning.
Right. Failure just means the plan was flawed, not that the goal is impossible. It's feedback.
Like Edison with the light bulb again. 10,000 failed plans or 10,000 steps on the path.
Exactly. Relentless iteration. Keep planning, keep adjusting, keep going.
And he uses Henry Ford as an example, too. Not necessarily the smartest guy, but he followed a sound plan consistently.
Having that roadmap and sticking to it is key. Though Hill also notes plans sometimes do need changing, like with Samuel Insull during the Depression.
So plans need to be adaptable, too, not set in stone.
Definitely. Sound planning, but also flexible planning. Especially vital when you're marketing yourself, your own services, maybe starting from scratch.
And he lists all those attributes of leadership needed for good planning. Courage, self-control, justice, decisiveness.
Definite plans, doing more than paid for, pleasing personality, empathy, detail-oriented, willingness to serve. It's a long list.
It is, and he contrasts this to the reasons leaders fail, like unwillingness to do humble tasks.
Yeah, or expecting pay just for what they know, not what they do, fearing competition from their team.
Lack of imagination, selfishness, disloyalty, putting too much emphasis on just having authority or a title.
These points really signal a shift he saw happening towards more cooperative leadership. Based on fairness, shared success.
Win-win.
Exactly. And then he gets super practical about marketing your services.
Starts with self-analysis, right? Know thyself.
Know your qualifications, then decide exactly what job you want, who you want to work for. Research them thoroughly.
Like preparing for a major campaign. Understand the terrain.
And understand their needs. Then focus on what you can give them, how you can solve their problems, not just what you want to get.
That's a crucial perspective shift. Give first.
Absolutely. And then prepare that detailed brief.
Yeah.
Your qualifications tailored to a specific role. Neat, professional.
Showcasing your value proposition clearly. He even suggests offering to work on probation.
Yeah, shows confidence. Let me prove myself. He also says use your network, personal connections, and don't rule out traditional classified ads.
He also mentions the business world changing. Less of that public be damned attitude, more focus on service, politeness.
Building relationships, treating people well, which ties into his example of the coal industry's decline.
Attributed to greed on both sides, management and labor.
Yeah, leading to lost business, lost jobs. A cautionary tale about the consequences of short-sightedness. You reap what you sow.
And he wraps up that section with a big list of general reasons for failure, lack of purpose, ambition, discipline, persistence.
But again, emphasizes that lack of formal education isn't a dead end. Self-education, applied knowledge, that's what counts.
And the need for honest self-analysis, asking yourself tough questions to know your strengths and weaknesses for selling yourself effectively.
Know your product, which is you.
Okay, next up, decision and persistence. Hill calls lack of decision a huge cause of failure. Procrastination, its best friend. Why is being indecisive so bad?
Well, it just stops you in your tracks, doesn't it? It lets doubt creep in, then fear builds up, but You never get moving. He really pushes for making quick, firm decisions.
He uses the American Revolution as a massive example.
Yeah, Hancock and Adams making that incredibly bold decision to kick out the British troops needed massive faith, massive courage.
That first decisive step.
And then everything that followed. Patrick Henry's speech, Jefferson drafting the Declaration, those 56 guys signing it, risking everything, all flowed from decisive action.
Hill says leaders, real leaders, make decisions quickly and stick to them.
Definiteness.
Nah.
Requires courage, he says, but it's essential.
Got to overcome that inertia, right? That tendency to just wait.
Yeah, through consistent effort, even small steps, which leads right into persistence. He calls it irreplaceable, your insurance against failure.
What's the core idea about persistence? Why is it so crucial?
He talks about this hidden guide that tests everyone. Success only comes, he believes, to those who just refuse to quit, who get knocked down but get back up again and again.
That image of Broadway as a graveyard of dead hopes, pretty stark.
Yeah, but conquered by people like Fannie Hurst or Kate Smith who just kept going despite years of rejection. Absolute tenacity.
So persistence is the key differentiator, and he lists symptoms of lacking it.
Oh, yeah. Not knowing what you want, procrastinating, making excuses, settling for mediocrity, quitting easily, weak desire, no real plan.
It's a long list of ways to sabotage yourself. And fear of criticism comes up again here, doesn't it? As a barrier to persistence.
Hugely significant. People don't aim high, don't take risks because they're worried about what others will think or say. Even Hill admits Carnegie's challenge initially scared him because of potential criticism.
But then he counters with all those examples. Woolworth failing early on.
C.W. Post overcoming illness and money troubles. Milton Hershey going bankrupt multiple times.
Walt Disney facing tons of rejections. W.C. Fields, Marie Dressler. People who hit rock bottom but clawed their way back through sheer persistence.
It really drives home that setbacks are part of the journey. The key is not letting them be the end of the journey.
We think King Edward giving up the throne for love. While different, it's an example of a massive, life-altering decision made with conviction.
A courageous decision with a huge personal cost. And then the story of Muhammad.
Facing ridicule, poverty, exile for 10 years.
Before his message catches fire, and he becomes this major historical figure, an incredible example of persistence against all odds.
It really underscores that long-term vision and unwavering commitment can eventually overcome almost anything.
That seems to be Hill's core message on persistence. Don't give up.
All right, let's dive into the mastermind concept more deeply. Hill says power is essential for getting and keeping money. Okay? And the mastermind is how you get that power.
That's the idea. He defines it again. Coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. It's about collective power.
More than just individual effort.
Way more. He talks about the economic benefits, shared advice, counsel, cooperation. Says it's the basis of nearly every great fortune.
Can you give a practical example of how that synergy works?
Think of a startup team. One person's great at tech, another at marketing, another at finance. Working together harmoniously, they can achieve way more than any one of them could alone, covering all the bases, sparking ideas off each other.
Makes sense. But then he gets into the psychic phase, the third mind. What's that about? It sounds a bit out there.
It does lean towards the metaphysical. He suggests when minds truly coordinate in harmony, they create this intangible force, like a collective consciousness, a connection of spiritual energy almost.
He compares the brain to an electric battery, absorbing energy. It's definitely reaching beyond the purely material.
It is. But he brings it back with examples. Henry Ford's progress accelerating after he became friends with Edison.
And later with Firestone, Burroughs, Burbank, that group.
Right. The power of those allied minds, that friendly collaboration, fueled incredible innovation and growth. It wasn't just Ford alone in a vacuum.
And Gandhi, unifying millions towards a single purpose. That's a mastermind on a massive scale.
An incredible demonstration of coordinated, harmonious effort creating immense power. And Hill believes the mastermind allows access to, what does he call it? Infinite intelligence.
It's a source of genius, basically. Great leadership.
Yeah. He suggests this connection, facilitated by the mastermind, is a more reliable source of knowledge and insight than just relying on your own limited experience or observations.
So collaboration doesn't just add knowledge, it potentially opens a door to a higher level of wisdom.
That's the implication, tapping into something universal, something bigger than the individual minds involved.
Interesting. Okay, now for maybe the most talked about chapter, sex transmutation. Let's unpack this carefully.
Agreed. It's easily misunderstood. Hill starts by defining transmutation, just changing energy from one form to another.
And he says the emotion of sex creates a uniquely powerful state of mind.
Very powerful. And he sees 3 constructive uses for that energy.
Okay, what are they?
1, obviously perpetuating the species. 2, maintaining health, he links it to vitality. And 3, transforming mediocrity into genius.
Okay, that third one is the core of transmutation for achievement. So it's about redirecting the thoughts associated with physical expression.
Exactly. Channeling that intense energy, that drive into other pursuits, creative work, business building, art, whatever your focus is.
He calls sex desire the most powerful human desire. Fuel for imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, creative ability generally.
His argument is, if you can harness that incredibly potent drive and focus it on your goals, it becomes this immense source of power and motivation.
He suggests many highly successful people, geniuses even, have tapped into this energy whether they knew it consciously or not.
And he notes that historically, many great men were significantly motivated by the influence of a woman, a connection between that drive and their ambition.
He also links it to higher rates of thought vibration, which he connects to genius. And the 6th sense, creative imagination again.
Right, that link to infinite intelligence. He thinks it's often activated in these heightened emotional states.
Creative imagination works best when the mind is vibrating faster, stimulated by desire, love, sex, enthusiasm.
That's his theory. These strong emotions lift thought above the ordinary, everyday level, allowing access to new insights, breakthroughs.
He even mentions people closing their eyes when thinking hard or speaking.
Yeah.
Trying to tap into that inner source.
Possibly. And he makes the bold claim that sex energy is the creative energy of all geniuses. Great leaders, artists, builders, highly sexed, he says, but often channeling it.
And his explanation for why many achieve more after 40.
He suggests that before then, the energy might be, let's say, dissipated more directly. Later, with maturity, there's perhaps a greater capacity for conscious transmutation, channeling it constructively.
So these mind stimulants, desire, love, sex being primary boost thought vibrations, connect us to infinite intelligence in the subconscious. That's the essence of genius for him.
That seems to be the core idea. He even attributes personal magnetism in great salespeople to harnessed sex energy.
It underscores the importance of understanding this energy, directing it intelligently, not misusing or wasting it. He calls love, sex, and romance the eternal triangle of achievement-building genius.
And he really emphasizes the wife's role, or the right woman's influence.
How so?
Her understanding or misunderstanding of love, sex, romance can profoundly impact a man's success, he argues. Because pleasing women is such a powerful motivator for men's ambition.
And intelligent women understand this and use their influence wisely.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
It's a complex view of motivation, deeply tied to these fundamental human drives.
Definitely a chapter that sparks discussion. Let's move to the subconscious mind. Hill sees this as like a huge internal hard drive, recording everything.
Yeah, every sense impression, every thought, conscious or unconscious. A vast field of consciousness beneath the surface.
And the key point is you can voluntarily plant things there. Desires, plans.
Yes, especially if you mix them with strong emotion, particularly faith. It's like programming it with your intentions.
He talks about the brain's incredible complexity, all those connections, and touches on things like telepathy, clairvoyance, extrasensory perception.
Suggesting the mind has potentials we don't fully grasp, especially when it's highly alert or stimulated.
Which leads to his invisible counselor's exercise. That's a fascinating technique.
It really is. What's the gist of it again?
It's using your imagination to hold mental meetings with people you admire. Emerson, Carnegie, Ford, Edison in his case. You ask them questions, imagine their advice.
Like having a personal board of advisors in your head.
Exactly. And he claims that by doing this regularly, you can actually start to develop some of their characteristics. It's a powerful form of mental stimulation and modeling.
Harnessing imagination to internalize wisdom. And he stresses just consistently engaging with stimulating ideas, reading, thinking to keep your mind elevated, fight negativity, and unlock that imagination.
It's about actively managing your mental environment, right?
Yeah.
Cultivating the soil for good ideas.
Precisely. Being the gardener of your own mind.
Okay, last major section. The 6 ghosts of fear. Hill says indecision is where fear starts. It breeds doubt, and doubt becomes fear. Often creeps up unnoticed.
And he identifies 6 basic fears he thinks cover almost everything.
Let's list them. Fear of poverty,
Criticism,
ill health,
loss of love,
old age,
and death. He argues most other fears are just variations of these 6.
And he notes how they can become more prevalent at certain times, like fear of poverty during a depression or fear of death during war. Society influences our fears.
And he repeats that core idea.
Yeah.
Thoughts tend to manifest physically, whether they're thoughts we choose or negative ones we just pick up through the ether, as he puts it.
Scary thought. Our random thoughts could shape our destiny.
Highlights the need for mental discipline. He breaks down each fear. Poverty, stemming from our tendency to prey on each other economically, leading to inferiority feelings.
Criticism, that near universal fear. He says industries even exploit it. Fashion, cars making styles obsolete so we fear being outdated. It stops people aiming high.
Ill health, often rooted in worry, negative thinking. Can even cause physical symptoms, hypochondria, often triggered by disappointments in love or business.
Loss of love, leading to jealousy, fault-finding, trying to buy affection. Old age, mostly tied to fear of poverty again, and negative cultural messages about aging.
And death, often amplified by religious dogma. He argues it should be accepted as natural, a transformation, not an end, given that energy and matter can't be destroyed.
And then he adds a seventh basic evil, susceptibility to negative influences. Why is that one potentially worse?
Because it's subtle. We absorb negativity from others, from the environment, often without realizing it. Successful people, he says, actively shield themselves. Positive thinking, self-control.
And he provides self-analysis questions again to help you spot your own vulnerabilities to negativity, build self-awareness.
Ultimately, he lands on this. Controlling your own thoughts is the only way you can truly control your destiny.
He uses forward again, overcoming lack of opportunity through a controlled mind, persistence.
And that mind control isn't magic. It's self-discipline. It's habit. Keeping your mind busy with a definite purpose, focused on your plan.
Being the master of your mental ship.
That's the essence of it. Taking charge internally to shape your external world.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, let's crystallize the key takeaways for someone listening. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. It's a dense philosophy, but the core pillars are clear.
Right. First, that intense desire, fueled by unwavering faith. That's the starting point, the engine.
Then, strategically getting and using specialized knowledge. Not just knowing stuff, but applying it purposefully.
Actively using your imagination, especially in creating concrete plans. Don't just dream, design.
Leveraging the power of a mastermind group. Collaboration is key. You can't do it all alone.
Understanding and channeling that powerful sex energy constructively, the concept of transmutation.
Tapping into your subconscious mind. Programming it for success.
And crucially, making definite decisions and cultivating rock-solid persistence.
While simultaneously conquering those 6 ghosts of fear and guarding against negative influences, it all fits together.
It really does. It's a whole system. So for an actionable next step, what would you suggest someone focuses on first, given their goal of understanding success principles efficiently?
Good question. I'd probably suggest really zeroing in on desire and faith first, getting clear on what you want and building belief.
Yeah, the foundation.
And then maybe organized planning and decision persistence. Those seem like the core action-oriented elements that drive things forward once the desire is clear. Conquering fear underlies all of it, of course.
Solid advice. Start with the what and the why, then focus on the how and the willpower to see it through.
Exactly. Those seem like the highest leverage points initially.
And one final thought to leave folks with. Hill keeps saying the secret isn't really a secret. It's universal principles out there for anyone to grasp.
Yeah, hiding in plain sight almost.
So the provocative question is maybe, what in your own thinking, your own habits, might be stopping you from seeing or applying these principles right now? This deep dive, well, it's just the beginning, isn't it?
Absolutely. The real work, the real value comes from taking these ideas and actually living them. Consistent application.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for exploring this with me.
My pleasure. It's always fascinating to revisit Hill's ideas.
Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time.